Welcome to The Explainer. You know, every single day you make tons of choices about what to buy. But if you ever stop to think about what's really going on in your brain, economically speaking, when you choose one thing over another? Well, today we're going to break down the science behind every single purchase you make.
So let's kick things off with the big one, the fundamental question that economists have been obsessed with for centuries. In a world filled with endless options, how do we actually decide what makes it into our shopping cart? I promise you, it's not random. There's a really powerful logic at play here.
All right, to even begin to understand choice, we first need a way to measure satisfaction. The happiness we get from stuff. And economists, they have a special word for this, and it is the absolute foundation of this entire theory. They call it utility.
To put it simply, utility is just the benefit or the enjoyment or the value you get from something. It's why you might grab a coffee instead of a tea or decide to watch a movie instead of reading a book. It's kind of like the secret sauce that makes you want one thing more than another. Okay, check this out. Imagine you're going to your favorite club. That first visit of the week? It's amazing. Let's say it gives you 12 units of happiness. The second visit? Still pretty great, but maybe not as epic, adding just 10 more units. You see the pattern here, right? The extra satisfaction you get from each additional trip, that's what we call marginal utility. It starts to drop off. By the time you get to the sixth trip, the novelty is completely gone. You gain zero extra happiness.
And this is where it gets really cool when you see it on a graph. Look at that top line. That's your total happiness, climbing and climbing. But then it starts to flatten out. And the bottom graph? That tells you the real story. The marginal utility, that extra kick from one more visit, is on a steady march downhill. This right here is the famous law of diminishing marginal utility. It's a simple but incredibly powerful idea. It's why that 10th slice of pizza is just never ever as good as the first one. Your satisfaction for that one thing just starts to wear thin.
So, let's be real, putting a precise number on happiness is kind of tricky, isn't it? So what if instead of trying to measure utility with numbers, we just ranked our preferences? This is a huge shift to what economists call ordinal utility, and it's a way more practical way to map out what we actually desire.
Let's think about your weekly treats, say coffee and donuts. An indifference schedule, like the one you see here, it just lists all the different combos that would give you the exact same level of total satisfaction. You might be just as happy with one coffee and a whopping 18 donuts as you would be with 4 coffees and 6 donuts. Between those two options, you're completely indifferent. And now for the really cool part. When we take these combinations and we plot them on a graph, they form something called an indifference curve. Every single point on this curve represents a bundle of goods that gives you the exact same level of satisfaction. And when you have a whole family of these curves, you get what's called an indifference map. The best way to think about it is like a topographical map, but for your happiness. Any curve that's further out to the right, like that one at I3, represents a higher level of overall satisfaction than a curve like I1. Pretty simple, right? More is better. Now, the slope of this curve, it tells us something really important about your personal tastes. It's called the marginal rate of substitution, or MRS for short. But in simple terms, all it measures is how many donuts you'd be willing to give up to get just one more coffee, all while keeping your overall happiness level exactly the same. It's your personal trade-off rate. Okay, so these indifference curves, they aren't just random squiggles on a page. They actually follow a very strict set of rules that, honestly, just reflect how a rational person thinks about their choices. These are basically the 4 golden rules that define how all these curves have to behave. They slope down, higher is always better, they bow inward, and this is the big one for logical consistency. They can never, ever cross each other. So why can't they ever cross? Well, it would literally break all the logic of preferences. Just imagine for a second they did cross at point A. That would mean you're equally happy with bundle A and bundle B, and you're equally happy with bundle A and bundle C. Logically, that means B should equal C, right? But wait a minute. C is on a higher curve, which means it has to give you more satisfaction than B. It's a total paradox. It just can't happen.
Now, while most curves have that classic bowed-in shape, some goods are, they're special. Take a left shoe and a right shoe. They're what we call perfect complements. Having more of one without the other is totally useless, and that creates these really unique L-shaped indifference curves. You just can't substitute one for the other.
So far, we've only been talking about what you want, your preferences. We've been in a fantasy land of infinite donuts and coffee. But now it's time for a dose of reality. The one thing that limits us all: money. This is where desire meets the real world. Your budget constraint is basically a hard line in the sand. It shows every possible combination of two goods you can buy if you spend every last penny of your income. It neatly separates all the stuff you can afford from all the stuff you just can't.
Let's put some real numbers on this. Say you have 50 rupees to spend. Coffee, that's good X, is 10 rupees. And donuts, good Y, are 5. This line here, that's your budget. You could go all in on coffee and get 5 of them, or go all in on donuts and get 10. Every point on this line shows a trade-off. To get one more coffee, you've got to give up 2 donuts. Anything on or below the line is fair game. Anything above it is just wishful thinking.
Okay, now for the moment of truth. We've got our map of desires, the indifference curves, and we've got our line of reality, the budget constraint. It's time to put them together and find that one sweet spot, the single best choice you can possibly make.
The optimal choice, what economists call consumer equilibrium, is found at that one single point where your budget line just barely touches the highest indifference curve you can possibly reach. See it on the diagram? It's point E on curve IC2. That right there, that's the most happiness your money can buy.
And at this perfect point of equilibrium, something kind of magical happens. The rate at which you are personally willing to trade donuts for coffee, your MRS, it exactly equals the rate at which the market lets you trade them, the price ratio. Your personal valuation of the goods perfectly aligns with the market's valuation. It's beautiful. And that's, right there, is the elegant logic of rational choice. It's an incredibly powerful model for understanding why we buy what we buy. But of course, life isn't static, right? So what happens when you get a raise or the price of your favorite coffee doubles? Well, that's when these choices get even more interesting. And that's a topic for another day. Thanks for joining us.